kinda nervous about blasting off. But the boys in Houston.
You're listening to Grace, Geltman, and Weld on the Hammer Factor. Take it away, boys.
What else are we doing on this?
We got Antoinette, we got Hipgrave, we've got listener mail, we've got rants and raves. Last show of 2020.
Cool.
Hopefully we can bust right on through this and it doesn't turn into a 3-hour epic. And Weld and I talked, we're definitely never doing the paid Patreon pre-show. Nothing good's ever going to come out of that.
No, I'd lose my business.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, welcome to episode 79 of the Hammer Factor, the final episode here of 2020. My name is John Grace, producer here at the show, and I'd like to introduce my co-host, John Weld, co-owner of Immersion Research and policy director for the Outdoor Alliance, Louis Geltman. What's up, fellas?
Rivers.
Oh, you guys are back. So what's going on? What are we looking at?
It's back. Oh man, we just finally got a bunch of rain and everything came in and going kayaking. I mean, like all I wanted for Christmas was an atmospheric river, and it came early. And yeah, I heard even John Weld went kayaking.
I've heard this like 7 times. Every time I talk to John, he's like, "Hey, I went kayaking."
Yeah, there's friggin' rain here.
That's going to be in the title. Weld goes kayaking. Let me write that down so I don't forget.
Yeah, it's like we ran the Hood River at like 10 feet, which was actually a lot of fun. I was kind of getting ready to poo-poo it going over there. I was like, yet another, blue square groomer that we're gonna suffer through, but it was actually really fun.
Listen, dude, we got plenty of blacks around here when you're ready to.
Yeah, that's for like 3 weeks out of the year. You're set. But guess what I got?
What?
I got an OG.
Oh.
And?
Well, I haven't accepted delivery on this craft yet. I was supposed to pick it up today, but I can't. I'm trying to track down Evan.
Okay.
No, you'll have no excuses, man. That thing is like the security blanket of all security blankets.
Yeah, I'm ready.
It's so good. It's going to roll like 100,000 miles off your odometer, dude.
Yeah.
Are you? Where are you, Weld?
Dude, I'm in a closet. It's been quite a day. We have no. Do you have gas, Geltman?
My house doesn't have gas.
Because we have no heat, no hot water. Someone hit a gas line outside of town, and like the entire Columbia Gorge was without gas for 3 days now.
I forgot that it was Oregon inside too. It's so crazy.
And so I've been going around trying to find some place that wasn't freezing cold to do this.
I'm so happy to hear you got some water out there, man. You guys deserve it. I mean,
I hope that we're in business now for the season and we just need like maintenance rain from here. Like we got a big shot of rain.
If I was only gonna get one boat, it should be the OG and not the Steez, right?
I mean, it depends what you want to do, but I would say the OG.
All right, that's what I thought.
But you should really get more than one boat.
If I lived out east, I think I'd just get the Steez.
why is that?
Yeah.
I don't know. It just feels more manageable.
I was paddling the seas like a bunch, and then when the water finally came up, and like first real proper little wet of the season was like, I don't know, low 4s, and I was very glad to have my nice training stern to keep me in line.
That was this year?
Yeah, just like a couple days ago. Yeah, I mean, just like pulled the OG out from under the deck, and I was glad to have it.
What'd you pay for your boat, Geltman?
Can't talk about that on here.
Come on. Did you pay retail?
We can't do that to Evan, man.
I paid retail.
Good.
I think paying retail is the new core. We had James Bird. I wasn't there, but I heard this anecdotally. James Bird, I'm guessing Regan, ex North Fork race organizers, into the store. and they're like, we're not going to accept a pro deal. We're paying retail. I think it's a movement.
Good for them.
I'm not going to sit there and try and, whittle down a few $100 off Evan. Why would I do that?
No, I agree.
Is there some,
Grace, you would though. You would totally.
is there some kind of like behind the scenes, under the rug, Waka sponsorship of the Hammer Factor going on here? I need to be like filled in on, because what's going on here?
I mean, that's probably the best. That's probably the best value in whitewater sponsorship right there. Is just hooking the three of us up and doing clandestine product placement.
You see, now you're going back to getting the pro deal again. Right? This is my first non-piranha. Well, no, that's not true. I had a brown forever, but I've been basically a piranha boater for forever. I mean, the last non-Piranha Creek boat I had was like a Huck or something. Remember that boat?
Oh God, the Huck. That was
I ran the
one of
shit
the
in the Huck.
worst.
And then I know. And then I had a what was the one that Johnny Kern made? The Grande, Hefe Grande.
That was a good one. That was a good boat.
Yeah, I paddled one of those for a long while.
Well, let's see. We got more rain coming here in North Carolina. Another couple inches coming tomorrow. So that's good. Got to give the Hammer Factor a pat on the back for the old Whitewater Journal, man. We're getting a lot of good messages about the Whitewater Journal. I'm sending your guys' out along with a special treat ASAP.
Is it a new left-hand control straight shaft? What am I talking about? Shogun. That's what I want.
No, that's impossible. That's
204. Write this down to go with my journal. 204 straight shaft Shogun. I'm gonna say, go ahead and slap a 60 on there.
Yeah, I entirely filled up my 2020 Hammer Factor Whitewater Journal.
All 200 pages?
And I had to dust off my 2019 that I had never opened and start making that into 2020 volume 2.
You know what you need? You need kids.
Big news. Guys, I got some big news. This is big breaking news. No one knows about this. At 3:56 p.m. East Coast time today, Green River Access Fund closed on a piece of property to secure permanent access to the Green River Narrows. Literally just happened probably 37 minutes ago.
That's awesome. Congratulations. Is it the same place you guys have always been using, or?
It's very close to there. It's actually even a little closer to the river. It's even a shorter hike. But, I mean, it's been, I've been on the board for 8 years. We have been looking. This place came on the market. We had saved enough money from key sales to buy it, and we put in the offer, and there was some due diligence things that kind of worked out last minute, and we have closed. So
congratulations, dude. That's really sick.
Permanent access is right around the corner for the Green River.
Are you gonna keep charging, you think, just for like property taxes and?
Well, we got to do some fundraising to pay for the actual construction of the lot, because it's a wooded area right now, and we'll probably do key sales in 2021. But I mean, when you look at taxes and upkeep and whatever versus the 10 grand we got to pay to rent that acre for people to park, now it's going to be a 10% of that. So, it's an interesting question. Let me pose this to you guys. Let's say that you had a private place that was just boaters on the Little White. No one else could park there but kayakers. And there's not really a place like that on the Little White. But anyway, there was a public access point where you didn't have to you didn't have to worry about people littering in your parking lot, not have to deal with hikers, fishermen, or anything like that. Would that hold value to you, or would you just as soon just let it be free for all, anybody can park there?
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. I mean, I guess it would depend on if you felt like it was gonna, become like crowded, like if you needed to keep it I mean, I guess I feel like there would be some advantages and something like that once you guys own that property to try to get like LWCF money and like bring it into public ownership and then, get your money back and just like walk away from it and let somebody else manage it. Like I would hate to, it's like, what do you do when it turns into like kayak gypsies living there?
Yeah,
Like,
or you show up and there's no place to park because there's a group of 30 hikers that have decided to park there for the day. And there's literally no other place around there to park, so it's not.
Yeah, I mean, if that's the concern, then maybe you should just keep gating it and keep keying it and charging, and then put that money towards some other like access or conservation stuff, or just upkeep of the place, or having a huge party or whatever you want.
Yeah. Anyway, long story short, permanent access. No more is it in limbo. So that's huge announcement.
That's really cool, dude.
I'm pretty stoked. It's been.
Do you remember, Gel, were you around during the crazy days that the Upper Yacht put in?
No, I don't ever remember it being. I mean, I always heard stories when I was a kid, but I think it was before my time when it was like really actually gnarly up there.
I remember going on a Valley Mill trip, and we were going to run the Upper Yacht. This was early on, and Tom McEwen put on, and there was a landowner who said that, you can't do that. And he put on and told us, the rest of us, we weren't allowed to or whatever. And he put on, when he got to the bottom of the river, the cops were there ready to arrest him for trespassing.
I remember Tom telling us about getting arrested for trespassing up there and then going all the way to court, and they were like, plead guilty and we'll let you off with a warrant.
They don't know who they're talking to.
Yeah, it's like, no, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't think this is trespassing. Like, I refuse to. And like he like took it all the way through the trial and then had to pay a $1 fine or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, we got a hell of a show lined up. We've got Antoinette Toscano on to talk about her project Whitewater TV. She actually launched a video that was sort of a clapback to the Hammer Factor when we had Meme Booth on. So we'll have her dive into that. She also does a Diversify Whitewater project. That's pretty interesting. We've got Chris Hipgrave from Piranha Kayaks coming on to talk about his waterfall running technique back in the day, among other things.
I'm going to make Hipgrave talk to us about surf ski. Now that I'm intrigued by it.
He told me that paddling a surf ski in the Columbia, like in a downwinder, is as sketchy as doing a little white at like 5 feet or something.
Interesting.
That's quite a claim.
All right, well, we'll get to the bottom of that here in a little bit when we get him on the show.
People have drowned out there doing that. I mean, I think they fall out of those boats and they can't swim to shore. That's it, right?
I mean, you have a leash.
Yeah, I don't get it. Yeah, let's ask Hipgrave. Seems pretty straightforward to me.
I have a friend who was in a stand-up paddleboard race out there, and they had to rescue somebody who fell off their paddleboard in one of those downwinders.
People drown every year out there. It's involved in something like that.
Anyway, we're way behind schedule. Lewis, what do you got?
What do you got? I mean,
well, I want to hear. This is what I want to hear. I want to hear about. We have been talking about Zinke and interior secretaries ever since this show started. Who's our guy right now?
David Bernhardt.
Yeah, Bernhardt. And we have a new administration coming in, a big transition happening.
Wait a minute.
After that quote-unquote election?
Thank you.
Well, in theory, on January 20th, we have a new administration. That is yet to be seen.
Well, let's not count our chickens before they're hatched, my friend.
Okay. Well,
let's count chickens. We can talk about it.
Okay, so let's.
Deb Holland.
We got Deb Holland coming in. She would, I'm assuming, be the first Native American Secretary of the Interior.
Was Zinke Native American?
He was part. He was. I think. I don't. There was a picture.
Yeah,
so anyway, fill us in. What's going on with the new administration? Is this something exciting, or are we more the same?
Yeah,
What's going on?
So the woman who Joe Biden is planning to nominate to be the new Interior Secretary is Deb Haaland, who is a congresswoman from New Mexico. She's currently the chair of the House Natural Resources Subcommittee on Public Lands, and she's a Native American woman, and like she's just so badass, and I'm so genuinely excited that he's appointing her to be the Interior Secretary. Like, I don't know. I mean, I feel like, I mean, Joe Biden's cabinet picks so far, I mean, I think most people would describe them as like pretty safe. Like a lot of people who are, coming back from the Obama administration, people who are, I don't know, like I read some commentator sort of obnoxiously describing them as like a team of retreads. But like, I mean, I feel like, I mean, there's certainly an argument to be made for bringing back people who have a lot of experience, just given the need to do so much rebuilding from the damage of the last 4 years. But to me, Deb Haaland is just like, I mean, she's hands down the most exciting pick for me out of, all of these people, irrespective of subject matter. And, that he picked her to lead Interior. It's just so cool. I mean, she's just like legitimately very progressive, like super, super environmental. I think it's hard. I think it's hard for us probably to like wrap our heads around how meaningful it is to have a indigenous person running the Department of Interior after their long sordid history of ignominious behavior with regard to the tribes. And like, I mean, it's like as exciting as like if, just even setting that aside, like it's as exciting to me as if you picked Elizabeth Warren to run Treasury or, AOC to do something, whatever. Like she's just, a really exciting, legitimately progressive leader. And, I'm just like over the moon about it. Like, I feel like I'm pretty cynical and jaded with regard to all of this stuff. And, there's not a lot that gets me like legitimately really excited about politics anymore, sad to say. And I'm really fired up about Deb Haaland.
So has she made any statements or goals, or what do you see? How do you see her policies directly affecting recreational, like people with the Outdoor Alliance?
I mean, I guess, one thing that she's done in Congress is she's the lead House sponsor of this 30 by 30 resolution, which is this campaign to protect 30% of all lands and waters, like by 2030. And that's not just public lands and waters, like 30% of the United States, which is apparently what what scientists focus on biodiversity sort of think is necessary in order to stave off a massive extinction crisis. And there's a big global campaign to do this all over the world. And she's been a leader on that in the House. She's somebody. So I mean, I think Joe Biden has promised that he will immediately end fossil fuel leasing on public lands on taking office, which is enormous. I mean, there's still plenty of an inordinate number of leases out there that have not yet been developed. So this is far from like ending new fossil fuel development on public lands, but at least it will be taking places that are not currently, under that threat off the table.
I mean, isn't the marketplace in general moving away from fossil fuels? I mean, isn't this going to be just not worth developing at some point just because it's a dead end?
Not natural gas, though.
No, I mean, I think that's right. But I mean, I think at the same time, it's like there's so much in need of reform with regard to the Department of Interior's oil and gas leasing program, and the ability of developers to get these leases for like $2.50 an acre in some cases, and even though they might never be developed, having those leases on the land really makes long-term conservation or development of recreation infrastructure or anything else really, really, really difficult. So it's like this like speculative leasing binge that's been going on over the last 4 years. Ending that will be really good. And, I think sort of planning for smart renewable energy development on public land is definitely going to be something that Deb Haaland will have to lead on. And I'm sure that's something that's high on their agenda.
Well, if she's
But
not,
it's just gonna be like a total reset at Department of Interior. I mean, that place is literally run by oil and gas lobbyists right now. I mean, that is like where Bernhard came from, and that I'm sure is where he's going again. And it's gonna be a new day over there, and it's really exciting.
well, if she's not just completely dismissive of the environment,
No,
I think it's a win.
Far from it. Yeah, I mean, and like not. I mean, look, I mean, you guys rightfully give me a hard time about Zinke, but I mean, I think at the time that felt like, about the best that we could have possibly hoped for from Trump, right? Like he was somebody who had, taken a few good votes on public lands issues, like said some good things, was from the West, like didn't come from wasn't somebody like Bernhardt who, had spent his entire career working in the fossil fuel industry. Like there was some reason to hope that Zinke was going to be something less than worst case scenario. And, I think we were trying to be glass half full about it at the time, but like Deb Haaland, like, I mean, I could not come up with a more exciting pick than her for sure.
Nice. Well, it could be a new T-shirt. We'll see.
Andrew Miller.
Yeah.
To work.
Zinke goes supping and Deb Haaland gets a running the shit shirt.
Well, we are already behind by about 15 minutes. So I am going to see if we can patch in Antoinette Lee Toscano here. And we can get to the bottom of her Whitewater TV hammer factor. Sorry, guys, that was my bad.
Stop drumming there, Weld.
Sorry, I'm writing Hipgrave, our next guest, just a note saying we're running a little bit late.
Oh, nice.
Where the hell is she? All right, let's see if we can get Antoinette on here. She had a clapback, and I'll put a link to it in the show notes, but it was a very polite clapback.
It's not the usual vitriol we get.
I was expecting, originally I was expecting, oh God, what did we do now? But it was actually really nice. There she is. Welcome to the show, creator and founder of Whitewater TV, Antoinette Lee Toscano. Did I say your name right, Antoinette?
Antoinette's perfect.
Okay. All right. Well, welcome to the Hammer Factor.
We're talking about how pleasant your clapback was compared to the usual riffraff we get. Thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. I try to be nice.
So,
speaking of which, Grace, you got a couple doozies this past week.
Yeah, I definitely.
More on that later.
Well deserved.
I can't wait to get to that. Actually,
you didn't get the we need to replace Grace email. That was for me.
Well, before we get into some of the grittier details here, Antoinette, what's your paddle length and offset?
So I paddle an AdventureTech 197 centimeter paddle with a bent shaft and a 30-degree left offset.
Well, thanks for coming on the show, and we'll look forward to seeing you in the future.
That was a great interview. Great. Thanks for your time.
Weld over with the left offset.
Yeah. And aren't you?
Wait. You're lefty?
Yeah.
So I'm right. I'm left eye dominant. Primarily, I use my right hand, but I'm kind of ambi.
But you have a left hand control paddle.
Mm-hmm.
Fascinating.
I also shoot with a left compound bow, and I can shoot pistol with both hands and primarily a rifle with just one, with my right.
I can't do any of that, so there's no even there's no sense in discussing that.
So Antoinette, before we get into your clapback video and some of the other things that we were talking about earlier, tell our listeners a little bit about you.
Well, I'm an 11-year U.S. Army veteran, and I like to tell people that because you often don't see veterans in general, um, but you rarely see female veterans. I am a former information technology CEO. I have a bachelor's degree in economics and an MBA, and I work as a freelance writer for an international magazine, Cultures, Culturs magazine. I'm also a public speaker. I'm one of the co-founders of Diversify Whitewater and the producer creator of Whitewater TV.
How long have you been out of the service?
Oh, wow, so long. About 15 to 18 years. I haven't
Wait a
actually
minute.
thought about that for a while.
You look like you're about 22. This math isn't really working for me.
I know. Well,
Well done.
well, the easy answer is black don't crack, but you do have to take care of it.
Huh.
So,
Well.
yeah.
So, whitewater focus. Were you a paddler before you were in the service? Was this something once you got out? How did you get into the
I
sport?
was not. I actually grew up in New York City. You can probably tell that from my video when I called you Hammer Factor. I tried really hard.
I
not
loved
to
that,
say
by the way. I loved that, by the way.
But so I was always kind of a weird kid, especially growing up in New York, to be outdoorsy. But my mom's family had a family farm, just a small farm in Virginia, Staunton, Virginia. And so that's where I kind of learned to hunt and fish a little bit and ride horses and just really love the outdoors. But I really didn't become an outdoors person until I was at the Carolina Tiger Rescue because I used to live in Raleigh for a while. I did it again, right? I lived in
Hey, just
Raleigh for a
just
while.
go with it. Go with it. I love it.
And I saw this poster that you could feed the rescued animals at the tiger rescue with your wild meat, and I thought I'm going to go learn how to be a bow hunter so I can feed the big cats at the Carolina Tiger Rescue. And that was kind of my first entry into outdoor adventure sports, but my family was very much against it.
So wait a second. Back up.
We
So
could get into that later though, but cocoa baggage and limiting beliefs are a real thing, and it keeps a lot of people of color from participating in adventure sports because of it.
You mean just peer pressure, basic peer pressure within your community?
Peer pressure of not being different, of the fact that a lot of people of color have experienced not just dangerous situations, but lost their lives just for being in a place that was considered off limits to people of color. And we have that experience. I'm adopted by a Black family. But we have that experience in our family. And so that was kind of a real thing, that even though my parents grew up in the outdoors, they were worried about me participating in adventure sports.
So before we get into this specific episode of Whitewater TV where the Hammer Factor got clapped back, what is Whitewater TV? Is this a YouTube channel? What is the kind of mission here?
So XOTV is a brand new platform. It's much different from YouTube in that the creator, like myself, we fully own our content. Once you load something up to YouTube, you don't own the copyrights to that anymore. So, for example, professional kayaker Sadat Kawawa sent in a video, and we published that on Whitewater TV. Sadat still owns that copyright. Once he puts it on YouTube, for example, then that changes. So XOTV is a new platform. In 2021, XOTV will be an app on some smart TVs, much like Netflix and Hulu apps, Amazon Prime apps. And so I'm creating content. All of my original content that doesn't live anywhere else will be on that app, and content that maybe it lives on YouTube and it lives other places, but it also lives on XOTV, on Whitewater TV, that will not be part of the TV app.
Okay, so this is you have a new channel on this new platform.
That's right.
Okay, cool.
So I'm in good company, like with the likes of Snoop Dogg is on this channel. some other famous people who I can't think of right now, but
Nice. And how?
So what's the mission statement of Whitewater TV? I mean, what kind of content are you looking for? I mean, what's the people are going to come there to see what? Like, what's the?
so just because I'm a producer who's a woman of color doesn't mean this channel is, specifically for women or people of color. It's for all people. So what I wanted to do, I realized that in adventure sports, there really was not one canonical source of information for people at various levels of entry into the sport. So for example, if you are a class 5 boater, you've been a competitive kayaker, or you're just thinking about getting into the sport, you can come to Whitewater TV and get a range of content, from seeing professional and enthusiasts paddling something in a foreign country or in your home country, or getting instructional videos, your podcasts, and other related. And like myself, I participate in more than one outdoor adventure sport. So many whitewater kayakers or paddle sports enthusiasts do. So I also offer the platform to other types of sports like hiking and climbing, for example.
So is Whitewater TV, is it like, when you say a channel, does that mean it's like similar to like a YouTube channel? Or is it,
Yes,
people have like, there's more like sub things under that?
well, it's yes and no. So it's specifically for whitewater paddle sports people who also participate in other types of adventure sports. So you can get training here. You can talk or see interviews and videos of your favorite professional kayakers and competitive kayakers, but you can also see people who are brand new to the sport.
Are you going to have like staff contributors, or just soliciting content, or how are you going to aggregate all this stuff together?
Yeah, so for example, we've got River to River's Eddie Out podcast. It premieres tomorrow. I've had shoulder surgery, so I have to celebrate like here instead of up here. But so yes, we have Natalie Zollinger and Brittany Parker from River to River. They've got their Eddie Out podcast. It'll be airing on Whitewater TV tomorrow. We have, what else is coming down the pipe? We have on Friday, certified personal trainer Ali Hudo has strength and flexibility exercise video for paddle sports that's coming out on Friday. So it's a range of content. We have an amazing interview with the Lost Boys and Girls paddle crew. They were testing out some Sotar inflatables, and we did a great interview with them. Can't wait to bring that to you. So yeah.
So it sounds like you're doing a lot of the. I mean, you're creating a lot of this content yourself, or with a group of your people that you know.
So the interviews are generally, I create those. Mm-hmm. However, other people like River to River and Ali Hudo and Sadat Kawawa, Pramod Magar, they have submitted their own content. We have the Iranian Rafting Association. They're submitting content to us. So we'll get to see some first descents in Iran that you and I can't get to. So it's going to be exciting.
Very cool.
Very cool.
Yeah, I'd like to paddle in Iran for sure.
So can I dig into your clapback on the Hammer Factor a little bit?
Absolutely.
Do you want to just give us the basic recap, or do you want me to break it down? What do you think the best way to do this is, Antoinette?
I'd like to recap.
Okay, go for it.
So I'm a fan of the show. I listen to Hammer Factor all the time. So I was listening to the show, making dinner, and I almost cut my finger because I heard Mean Boof say that, he brought up a great point, that some companies are putting out statements in response to the Black Lives Matter movement, and there's not much follow-up. And so I understand his point where he was coming from, but he mentioned an organization that happened to be doing quite a lot to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, for people of color, Black, Indigenous, and people of color. and I can explain what the acronym BIPOC means and where it came from if you like. But when he mentioned Liquid Logic, I immediately flashed to, I have to say something, because right now, consumers more than ever, they make their purchasing decisions based on who they know and like. So if they recognize your brand, if your brand supports the things that they are interested in, if your brand is doing good things in the world, then they spend their dollars with your brand. And so, especially here and now at prime shopping season, I felt like if we allowed this message to live out there, that Liquid Logic specifically and the whitewater paddle sports industry in general have not done enough, and it's wrong, and that information just spreads, I was really concerned that it could really hurt, one, the industry, and two, Liquid Logic specifically. And I know Shane Benedict, and he's just like a wonderful human being who does a lot. He and the company he co-founded does a lot, just like Immersion Research. Immersion Research was one of the first companies to help Diversify Whitewater, which is an organization that I'm heavily involved with. It's one of its co-founders, along with Lily Durkee. And so I just felt like, what is the right thing to do? In this current climate, I knew very well that as a woman and as a person of color, if I stick my neck out there, it might get chopped off because Hammer Factor is not known for being the favorite within this community that I am a member of.
Whoa! Wait a second.
That's mostly Grace, though, to be honest.
Wait a second. How did this happen? Tell us what they're talking about behind the back.
Listen to your listener mail. Sometimes I want to give you guys a hug when I hear your listener mail. I'm like, oh, sorry, but
wait till you hear.
But you kind of own some of it sometimes. So
you're on 100% of it all the time.
Wait till we get into the end. Wait till after your interview and we get into this episode. Pretty much, people are wanting to kick Lewis off. I'm pretty much labeled a flat earther. I mean, it's gonna.
I came away unscathed miraculously.
Yeah, somehow you got out of this one.
Your time's coming, Weld.
Sorry to interrupt, Antoinette.
No worries. I really do like the show in all sincerity, but I was worried not about what you guys might think about it. I was worried that no matter how nicely I said this, no matter how much compassion I put into my message, my response back, potentially it could not be well received amongst Hammer Factor viewers and Meme Booth fans and followers. I follow Meme Booth. I think he's hilarious. But I felt like no matter how I say this, people are not going to like me for it because I'm saying something potentially perceived as negative about people they care about. That's understandable. And when you're hiding behind a computer screen, it's really easy to be very mean.
Wise words.
And I was a little nervous and I almost chickened out about saying something, but I felt like the adventure sports industry in general and Liquid Logic in particular didn't deserve that negative message to linger out there. And so I felt like the right thing to do was to say something.
Yeah,
for sure.
To stick my nose in it.
And I think,
to be fair, I mean, Shane can't speak up. I mean, it just doesn't. It's not going to look good for Shane to start vocally, disputing this. It's not going to get anywhere. No, I think it's very much appreciated what you're saying.
I agree. And in your message, and I'll link to the episode in the show notes of this podcast. I mean, Liquid Logic was one of the first companies to jump on board. Shane opened up doors for you with Kayak Session magazine and various things, and offered everything from discounts to any kind of support he could for what you guys were doing, and he was one of the first. And so I think your message is like, whoa, hold up a second. These guys are being super legit about this, not just lip service.
Absolutely. Shane Benedict actually reached out to me about helping out with Diversify Whitewater.
Right.
And so our first early adopter of this concept of promoting diversity, equity, inclusion in whitewater was immersion research. And that initial statement to the community from immersion research, it actually kicked off a lot of people into action, myself included.
Did you write that, Weld?
We wrote. I mean, as a company, we wrote it.
Right.
Well, thank you for that.
Oh, sure.
It kicked
No,
my
and you're.
butt.
I mean, you should definitely. I mean, I'd love for you to talk a little bit about diversity whitewater as well, because I mean, your program struck out immediately to us as something you're actually doing something, and you've had a couple events right now, right, over on the Pooter.
We have, but you know what I would really like, gentlemen, is if we could come back and have this discussion about diversified whitewater along with Lily Durkee, because diversified whitewater was Lily Durkee's idea.
Okay.
And you know, she asked me to go in with it, and we took it from there. But it just it's not the same if we don't tag team this discussion, because she's amazing, and I'd love for you to meet her.
Yeah. No, sounds good.
We're 4 minutes past time to get our next guest on, Antoinette, but I got a couple little things I want to dig in just from listening to your video. I'd like to throw out there. So you're writing this article on diversity, equity, and inclusion in Culture Magazine. Can you kind of talk? You mentioned that article, and it's obviously something you've been working on for a while. Can you kind of summarize some of the points that are going to be in that article for our audience? I don't want to scoop your article here, but
Sure. So first, I want to say that if what it's so much to say. If I went into this article not knowing what I was going to write and just letting the story take me. And so I because Culture, CULTURS, is an international magazine, it just can't have an American perspective. So I reached out to diversity experts, nature therapists, industry leaders all over the world. And most of them were like, oh, this is great. It's awesome that you're writing this article, but I don't have any expertise at diversity, equity, inclusion in adventure sports. So I don't want to talk about this on camera. Then the other response was, oh, there's a lot I can tell you, but I don't want to talk about it on camera because I'm afraid of backlash. So it's very interesting to kind of hear this. And again, to Liquid Logic and Immersion Research's credit, they were the first companies that said, I'll talk to you about this. You can quote me. So yeah, it's really interesting to learn about whitewater and adventure sports around the world and in that whole perspective. Yeah. So
do you touch on some of these organizations that you mentioned also in the video, like in Iran and Africa and India and some of the people
Yes.
they're getting on the rivers and whatnot? Okay.
yes.
And
And then the other thing that I wanted to mention is this. This should be a wake-up call for every industry, but specifically outdoor adventure sports industry, which is close to my home, and paddle sports, because there were, in 2018, 553 million people of color were born, not immigrated, not migrated, born in the United States. 1.9 million Caucasian people were born. 73% of Caucasians participate in outdoor sports. That's down from 82%. So there's a decline in Caucasian people participating in sports. There's a decline in Caucasian birth rates. And if all industries, but if the outdoor adventure industry doesn't figure out a way to market to the larger percentage of human beings that could potentially buy the things that you make, how will the industry survive as birth rates continue to decline, as outdoor adventuring continues to decline, and as people who are already in the sport age out of the sport, become too busy, get injured, etc. So you can either be like Kodak, who developed a digital camera in 1975, saw the future coming and ignored it and almost didn't survive, or you can say, maybe we should do a little more to promote diversity, equity, and inclusion in paddle sports and other adventure sports.
Well said. I don't know what your plans are for that and whatnot, but if you could put together some case studies where you've had some success with that, I can see there being real value with companies just getting consulting on this. Exactly how do we approach that in an authentic way,
I'm working on it with a diversity, equity, inclusion expert who is brave enough to talk about this. And, all of the people that I mentioned in my clapback video and others, I did not mention the organizations like Kokatat, like Watershed, who donated to Diversify Whitewater also, because this is not, my clapback had nothing to do with Diversify Whitewater. It was just my personal opinion as the creator and producer of Whitewater TV. So if you want to know who's doing what within the industry, go to diversify_whitewater on Instagram, join, become a part of the community, and look through our feed, our posts, to see who's really walking the walk.
Interesting. Well, I'll tell you,
I have an
Antoinette.
announcement though.
Oh,
yeah.
Sorry, can I give you guys a scoop?
Oh, yeah.
We love
So
scoops.
I gave you the River to River scoop. It is going to, their podcast will be in video format on Whitewater TV. But you're also looking at one of Badfish SUP's newest team members, yours truly.
Nice, congratulations.
So thank you. So that's super exciting.
The people there are awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Lewis is an avid supper.
And, thanks for having me, guys. I hope you'll invite me back with Lily so we can tell you all about Diversify Whitewater.
Well,
Sure.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah.
congratulations on that in all sincerity. And, we talk all the time. We need a little diversity on this show. And I know when we spoke on the phone a little bit, I said, well, you may have to make a regular appearance here on the old Hammer Factor. So if you're willing to come back, we would definitely like to have you come back at some point.
I'd love to come back. This was fun.
Awesome.
Thanks so much.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you guys for having me.
Of
And
course.
thank you for taking it easy on me. Just
Oh,
kidding.
please.
I knew you would. Well, you know what? As a member of the Ladies of Whitewater, I just wanted to say that.
We just never
you know
can live
what?
it down.
I come back every time. I listen to the new episode every time. So you must be doing something right, right?
Well,
don't
I
know.
appreciate that. That's a good question. I don't know if we're doing something right or not.
Yeah.
When we get to the listener mail, you may think different.
Hey, when I get to be perfect, I'll throw stones.
There we go. There we go. All right. Well, thank you for the time, Antoinette. Awesome talking
Bye,
to you.
guys. Thank you. It
Bye.
was fun. Bye.
Well, there you go, boys. I could have talked to
There's just a
Antoinette
lot going on.
for a long time. Yeah, she's a hustler, man. I was.
We need to have him come back on and talk about the program she's doing in Fort Collins.
Yeah, for sure.
It's actually a really neat program, and it had, from what I understand, really really good turnout. Max is the guy that I are working with her the most, and we've been talking, a lot about what she's doing. So it's really cool.
When you start looking at numbers and you start thinking about business, which is kind of a weird way to look at inclusion and whatever, but
Totally.
oftentimes economics breaks down borders. You know what I mean? It's like,
No, and this is, I hate to bring the trade show thing again, but this is where we need to get back to an outdoor retailer sized organization. That's
let's not get started on that one.
that has the strength to really address this properly. If we're just a bunch of scattershot companies coming about this from different angles, it's a tough one.
Are you going to the big show?
We're not invited.
You're not invited.
No.
We'll talk too much shit about it on the Hammer Factor, and
Well, no, we're soft goods. This is only for boats.
Oh,
Yeah.
great. All right, so
That's great.
sorry, I'm uninterested in that whole thing. I could go on and on, but it wouldn't be positive. So I don't.
Okay.
Go ahead.
You bring on Hipgrave?
I am, but I'm not sure I have his correct thing here. Do you want to introduce him, Weld?
So we've been trying to get someone from Piranha to come on forever, and specifically, I've been trying to get Robert Pearson to come on, who's one of the designers that lives in Asheville. He lives in Asheville, right? Or does he live south of you guys?
He lives in Asheville.
He's not one for the spotlight though. And so finally we were talking about Piranha and sort of what direction they're headed post-COVID with all this unbelievable energy in the industry. And so the Matt, who's I think the UK-based marketing director at Piranha, wrote me and asked me if he heard the show and asked if we wanted from someone at Piranha to come on. I said absolutely. So he offered up Hipgrave. But Hipgrave has been... You bring him on right now?
Yeah, I'm ready to go. I mean, I think this is him.
USDKT.
Yes, I'm pretty sure this is him.
Chris is a paddler who's been around forever. He's a British guy, but you won't tell, because I think now his accent's just about gone, wouldn't you say?
Oh, I can still hear his accent.
You sound sort of a...
Chris,
What's
are you
up,
there?
gentlemen? Yeah.
Okay. All right. Chris Hipgrave, North American Sales Manager. Is that how I
That's
would?
close enough.
North American Sales Manager for Piranha Kayaks. Welcome to the Hammer Factor.
Thanks, John. Great to see you. Great to see you all.
Yeah.
Yeah, your British accent's almost... I mean, it's... I want to say 30% left. 70% gone.
My parents are 100% convinced I'm fully American at this point, and most Americans. So
Yeah. I mean, you almost could fit in it like at South Carolina Denny's or something like that without raising an eyebrow.
He has no choice. He lives just down the road.
What
Waffle House, North Carolina Waffle Houses. That's where I practice my Appalachian accent.
Could we, before we get into Piranha, there's a lot to talk about with Piranha. Oh, Piranha. But can we talk about your paddling career for a minute, which stretches back well into the 40s and 50s, I think, right? I mean, we're going to bring up this video we had taken in the 80s, which is, I mean, honestly, it's become my spinal tap of kayaking. It's something I refer to over and over and over again over the years. It's just a touchstone of awesomeness. But you started in the UK.
Yeah. So I grew up in the UK doing slalom. Actually, slalom was how I got into the sport.
What year?
That was
we started paddling.
Early 80s, I think, somewhere in there.
Okay.
So,
all right.
that was back when slalom courses were about 3 minutes long, and
Sure.
as slalom courses got shorter and shorter, I got worse and worse at it. So, and then kind of found that was right around the advent of some of the early plastic boats. So, got myself a Topolino and met this guy called Sean Baker and started falling down some wet rocks.
Yeah.
And
that video.
Hence the video. That's where that came from. And that was filmed in, I think, 1989.
So I know we've talked about this video before, and you're going to put a link. I sent you the link to this, but you're going to put it in the show notes, right, Grace?
I almost wish that I had my rig all set up so we could just do play-by-play. What were you thinking right there in that shot?
I taught kayaking at Riversport for a number of years, and that video probably played almost every morning for about 7 or 8 years at Riversport. And all the instructors would say it was very fast, it was out of control, and it hurt. That's what we described every single anything that we did.
I mean, it was that. Every time I get to see that thing or someone makes a comment, I cringe. It's one of those things that's never ever going to escape me, sadly.
Well, I would point out that if you look at other videos from that era, you're by and large the technique shown in the video was a decade ahead of its time. Because if you look at old 80s videos, people paddled like shit, even the best paddlers. Yeah. And you guys had a distinctive slalom style, which is more prevalent, I think, just in general paddling today. I'm not sure why, but it's a very modern style. Like that was immediately noticeable. There's one guy there doing super loosey goosey doofacts, but beyond that, I'm always impressed by that.
Yeah, well, you know, Sean Baker, it was the driving force behind that film, and a large part of my childhood falling off waterfalls, and he was the first pro boater that I was really aware of. I mean, he made his living from kayaking, and that was back in the 80s.
Yeah.
He was sponsored by Sector Watches, Eskimo. There were others, but yeah, he was a good guy to hang out with, and he really progressed the sport in the UK and Europe. I don't know how much of an effect he had over here, but yeah, he had a really big impact on kayaking over there. People still talk about him. I mean,
For sure.
he was the first one to run a waterfall over 50 feet. I mean, that's mundane today, but back then, you know, that was a big challenge. They didn't know what the hell was going on.
Yeah.
And this was all in a boat shaped like a damn pickle.
Right.
So,
Right.
So, yeah, it's good stuff. Good
So
stuff.
then, in a roundabout way, how'd you end up at Piranha then?
I moved to America in '91, ostensibly to paddle more, and I ended up getting eddied out here, and just ended up working for Dagger for almost 10 years. Did a stint at Liquid Logic, got sidetracked with the Olympic Committee for a while with canoe and kayak, then ended up at the NOC, and then ended up at Piranha. But you know, I bought one of my first plastic boats from Piranha when I was a kid. My parents drove me up there, and I met Graham McAriff, who was the guy that started Piranha. And we had stayed in touch ever since. I always made a point of seeing him at trade shows. And yeah, he called me up and made me an offer I couldn't refuse.
So, just really quick, USCKT, which is the organizing body behind slalom in the United States, right?
It's the ACA now.
Right. So, what you have a budget, let's say I want to give you $20 million and you have 5 years. How do we get slalom back to where it was in 1988?
You can't. The amount of money that you need to spend to get one medal is astronomical.
Not a medal. Just back to review. You have a team trials with 60 people showing up.
Slalom's dead. The sport of slalom is dead, along with wild water.
In the U.S.
And I would argue. I mean, slalom and wild water is declining across Europe as well. The sport is dead. It's lost contact. In my opinion, it's lost contact with the sport of kayaking, with the larger sport of kayaking. These crazy ass boats that are super fragile. Now they're all paddling on man-made courses that cost millions of dollars to paddle. I don't even paddle real rivers anymore. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's just moved further and further away from the sport of real kayaking, real whitewater kayaking.
So you just take the $20 million and run, is what you're saying. You don't do anything with it. I mean, you just keep it.
It would have a negligible effect.
I mean, the thing would be to have enough money that you could change the direction of the sport, right? It's like if you could start putting on events that were some kind of like hybrid between a real slalom race and like the North Fork Championship, and then and had real prize money, and then could like really just like hijack the whole sport and take it away from that artificial course, Eurocentric vision, you know. But I guess that would probably take more than $20 million.
Well, the ICF are trying that now with what they've dubbed extreme slalom, which the rest of the world calls motocross. But so they're running. I'm not sure if you've seen it, but they're running 4 people at a time. There's a mandatory roll. You know, it's pretty lame, but it's a good move in the right direction. But it's still a long way from where it needs to be. And
do you feel like some of these governing bodies have just suffocated the sport? Do you feel like they're somewhat implicit in the decline in popularity?
100% yes. I mean, the 4 years I put in at USAC, you know, I got to see behind the Olympic curtain, and I was pretty horrified at the end of the day. You know,
give us a little tidbit. Like what's?
Well, I went into that job, you know, with all the gusto and passion that the Olympic rings have. You know, I was hugely passionate about the sport of canoe and kayak, the Olympics. And then once you kind of see what really goes on at these events, you know, the Olympic bigwigs from all around the world, they all sit in their little VIP boxes with their backs to the events, working on TV deals and money. And so it just ended up being more about money and politics. And the athletes were really the pawns on the chessboard. And it was pretty horrifying to see. And it was, you know, USA Canoe and Kayak was in a tough situation, right? I mean, Rebecca Giddens had just come off a medal, a series of medals, and it was slalom had this vacuum. There was no obvious person to kind of take the reins there. Scotty P was doing well, Brett Heil, but they weren't medal. They were final hopefuls. They were medal outsiders. Sprint was even worse. So, yeah, it was a tough situation, and it's really only gone downhill from there. I think slalom as a whole is in danger ground. Period in the Olympics. You know, these courses are costing more and more for 4 days of competition. At some point, the dollars don't add up. So I think slaloms. I think that they've announced that extreme slaloms is going to be in the 2024 games. I think that's a good effort to try and add more content to these courses, but I just think whitewater sport as a whole is in danger long term in the Olympics.
Might be for the best for slalom in the long run, honestly.
That's exactly what I was going to say. Way more freedom, more ability to change it up and see if something sticks.
Yeah. You know, you were talking about having, you know, hundreds of people at slalom team trials. Well, I mean, the needle's just moved, right? You go to the green race or the Russell Fork race, the Ocoee race. It doesn't even have to be on hard whitewater. Exactly. These races are all selling out, and that's where it is, because it's a balance of fun and competition. And that's where slalom used to be. Back in slalom's heyday, you would train in the morning, and then you grab your slalom boat and go run section 4 in the afternoon.
Right.
You know, there was a fun and training aspect, and that's completely gone now. So competition's just moved on, but the Olympics hasn't.
Yeah, in those races you mentioned, like the guy who gets 75th had just as much fun as the guy who got first.
Yep.
You know, so.
Yeah, agreed.
All right, so you end up in Piranha.
Yeah.
And
been an awesome 4 years.
Here in the U.S., Piranha U.S. is a different company than Piranha U.K., right? You guys are on separate business, or how does that work?
Yes.
Who's your boss?
You know, we're I report directly to Graham McAriff, the owner of Piranha. No, he started Piranha actually 50 years ago this coming February. So
50.
He's 50 years ago. Yeah.
50.
50. February is our 50th anniversary. So I guess we're seeing some media about that. And,
oh man, we should have some kind of party or something.
Yeah, if this damn pandemic wouldn't get in the way, there was going to be one. But
and so you guys, but pandemic notwithstanding, you guys just probably like everybody else is coming off your best year ever, right?
It was an amazing 2020, right? I mean,
for the outdoor industry to be.
Yeah. But just like the rest of the outdoor industry, yeah, it's been good to us. We had a great first quarter, and at the end of that first quarter, obviously the bad news of the pandemic hit, and we had a couple of weeks wondering if the world was going to come to an end or not, like the rest of us. Yeah. And then all of a sudden we couldn't get boats in quick enough for the rest of the year. So it's been quite a ride.
You think this little tsunami, this wave, is going to keep going for a little while, or do you think it's a one and done year? What do you see in projections for the future?
Yeah, so this is obviously a bubble driven by the pandemic. So the real question is, what's the new normal? And I think things will taper off as people start to travel again internationally and go on these big adventures that they're missing. But where's the new baseline? We've introduced tens or if not hundreds of thousands of people to the outdoors, or they've rekindled that passion to the outdoors, and hopefully some of them stay there. So we just got to figure out what that new baseline is. I think generally this has been a very positive thing for all outdoor sport, and it will have a lingering effect. It just depends. It just depends how far we bounce back. What do you guys think?
I think you're right on. I think a percentage will stick around, and hopefully they'll
we've been seeing participation, at least. I mean, this is anecdotal, but we've been seeing participation, like in the upper yacht race, so that's any barometer, increasing pretty steadily over the years. There's certainly a number of people you see on the river increasing every year. So, and I think it's a bubble, but I think we're going to see. I mean, I keep saying this, and I don't want to bore our audience with this again, but I think we're seeing something similar to what we saw in the 70s and 80s, where America sort of realigned its interest in outdoor sports. It's becoming more of a thing, which is great.
Yeah, yes,
So,
very good.
if you had asked me a year ago, right before the pandemic, and seeing what's going on with Dagger, and Confluence getting bought by Pelican, and really the fact of how few whitewater boat companies, there's really no whitewater boat companies have ever made it alone, and Jackson, moving on from EJ, and I think at that point probably taking a less whitewater focused approach. The whitewater boat game, at least in the U.S., was Piranha's to lose, right? They're the ones that had the strongest. You look at the Ripper and the Machno and Fuseli, and the experience you guys have in the sales team here in the U.S., and then you have a European backing, which, in my opinion, gives you guys a real stability economically, just because participation in Europe just seems to be so much just more steady. But it seems like this year has changed everything. I'm saying things now that I would never say ever. Like, I'm seeing companies like Waka and Varus, and these guys suddenly maybe they have a crack at this thing. I mean, what do you think? Do I have this all wrong? Like, what's your take on the look of whitewater boat designs and manufacturing going forward from here?
Yes, that's really a twofold question you asked me. So you're right. You're right about Piranha. We've had the drama surrounding Confluence and even Liquid Logic going consumer direct, and Jackson. It's been good for us. At the same time that we've also we managed to focus on some designs that made a big impact. So, yeah, I think Piranha's definitely moved into, I would say, a leadership position in whitewater right now.
Right.
But you're absolutely right. I think we've got these young whippersnappers coming into the market, and frankly, it's brilliant. Remember that when Dagger started, it was a young startup company that threatened perception, and look where they've ended up, right? I mean, every company that's come in has started off where Waka is right now, or Verus, or Spade, or whoever it is, and some of them will survive, some won't. I mean, John, it's not easy to make money in this business. I mean, the best way to make $1 million in the paddle sports business is to start with 2.
Well, it hasn't been easy for you, but it's been quite easy for us. But that's another story.
It's not. Trust me, it's not easy for us either. But no, I think it's refreshing to see these young companies come in with different ideas about what works for them and what doesn't. And I think some of them stand a good chance of being the next Jackson, Piranha, Dagger, whatever it is. Some won't, because it is logistically very, very hard.
So as a boat designer, how do you respond to people just saying over and over again, just make the damn OG, would you please? I mean, could you just make this just like this, but like the OG instead? I mean, what's the response as a company to that? I mean, do you guys figure out what's the next step beyond that?
Yeah, well, so first of all, every company has their own design DNA, in my opinion. I mean,
Sure.
I think Dagger, for example, is a very mature brand in terms of the people that buy it. I think the Piranha is a slightly more youthful brand in terms of who buys it. Our boats are generally more sporty as a result. So why we don't need a copy? We don't need to copy what Waka's doing. I mean, we're really steadfast in the direction, the designs that we want to do.
Right.
And I'll say something that might be unpopular. I paddled the OG and I really didn't like it. So
no, and I'm phrasing it the way to spark an answer, but I hear people out here where the OGs are super popular, obviously because of the type of rivers we have, and Evan's out here, and it's hard for people to believe there's other types of paddling than here. Other types of motors, you know what I mean? You get caught in this bubble.
Yeah, no, we hear that from from Fuseli all the time, right? And he's right there in Hood White Salmon Hood River, and the OG makes a lot of sense right there on the White and the Little White. We made changes to the updated version of the 9R2 based on some of Dave's feedback in that same environment. But you come east, there's always going to be a place for a boat like the Muckno in our lineup that's has no edges and is very round with our rocky mank that we have here in the southeast. So there's I appreciate what Waka's doing, but it's definitely influenced by where they are in New Zealand and people like Evan's feedback, who's there in Hood River. I think if Evan lived on the green, I think his feedback would be very different and would influence Waka in a very different direction. So
no doubt. So let's talk about half slice boats, like the Ripper, things like that, which it felt like they were like a new class of boats, right? What's next? Do you guys feel that way? Am I have this wrong? I felt like when the Brack came on board and then the Ripper came along, I felt like we had like a brand new toy to use.
Can I back up real quick? So when you reference paddling the green versus paddling a different river, what does that mean?
It means paddling a river with hard white water and real water rather than like sort of a drainage ditch kind of a gravel bar. You see how I've been inculcated, Gelman? You see that?
You've obviously not been to the green in the last year and a half.
I know.
No, my point is that our reference points for kayak design and that type of stuff gets very influenced by where we are and where we are testing boats.
Right.
So to use an example, just Piranha, right? We got Piranha UK and Piranha US. So Piranha UK, their closest river is the D, which is a class 2-3, not very steep river that requires a shitload of rain for it to run. It's and that's their local piece of whitewater. There's a lot more other good stuff nearby, like the Fairy Glen and other stuff. And then we've got Piranha US, 20 minutes from the green, and surrounded by other whitewater. So we often have conflicting viewpoints about what a boat should be, largely because of of how we've been influenced by where we're paddling. And then to throw in Fuseli's viewpoint with him out there in white salmon, so we often end up with this kind of mixing pot of ideas to take a boat design in one direction. Then we have to sift through that and refine it, and then give it to Robert Pearson, who's honestly the magician. Like he takes all this feedback and comes up with a kick-ass boat at the end of the day that seems to make everybody happy. So
God, he is amazing.
Possible?
I'd love to get.
Yeah, he is. He is a great boat designer. Is it financially possible to make like a West Coast Machno and an East Coast Machno to keep everyone happy? Is that a financially possible thing?
Yes and no.
I guess my question. Go on. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, John.
I guess my question is, I don't see much difference between the way the green is running and the little white at 4 feet. Like I'm trying to I don't get the difference in what's different there.
Well, the green there's a lot more rock contact and that type of stuff. We're boothing off of rock and water. The little white, it tends to be a lot of water moves. I haven't run the little white in about 15 years. Wow,
they're just so similar to me. I mean, I guess if you just
I disagree with that. I feel like a lot of the moves out here, not just a little white, a lot of moves out here are sort of those mid-drop, late boofs where you really have to pull the boat up from your core and try and get the nose up over a lip. And there's a lot of rivers, as Lewis would say, would be a very mediocre day if you got stuck on it, if you don't know how to do that trick. But the green, you a lot of these big driving up on the bank type moves, you know what I mean, or up on a rock to really get your nose elevated that way. You just don't do that here because the rocks just are not going to allow it.
I agree, and I guess I wouldn't take it as like a slight to the southeast at all.
No,
not at all. I mean, I think it's like like if I were like people back east sometimes will ask me about like the OG, and I'm like, yeah, like it's a sick boat, but like like what really makes it come to life is kind of like this like high volume creaking style, but to me is like I don't know, like Little White, Callahan, Ashlew, like that style of whitewater, that boat just works. And it's like, it's not to say that it wouldn't work great on the green, but like, I'm not sure that you would take it somewhere and like be like, this is like, this kayak is magic the way it is magic out here, you know? Like, I think that's a fair.
All those
And I don't
rivers
know, I mean,
are so similar in my mind. I'm trying to place the difference. I don't know.
I guess I haven't been to the green with proper water in an awfully long time, but
Yeah, I'm not saying one way or the other. I mean, the green's been running 200% for like 2 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
like, I mean, it's been above 20 inches for 2 years. So it's like,
yeah.
I guess if
But
you're
my-
talking about like a super low water kind of slide, like a Wilson's Creeky type thing or something like that, I can see the difference. But I'm just trying to think
Yeah,
of the
I mean,
difference between the Ashlu and the green and the little white when it comes to boat design, because those are all so similar.
Perhaps
to me.
I didn't use the two best rivers as reference points, but the bottom line is that our opinions on what works and what doesn't is very much influenced by where we paddle the most.
Right.
So how do you make someone like Fuseli happy that's paddling the white and little white every day, versus Chuck Morris who lives on the Upper Yuck? So how do you combine all those things and make something magic come out the other end? It's a process.
You were going down a road there before I interrupted, Weld, about the half slice designs in this new genre. Where were you going with that?
Well, do you feel like there's more to be done in that genre of boats? That's the first part. And the second part is, do you think, what's the next thing? I mean, do you think like the Steves, where you're having sort of a half slice meet a creek boat type thing, is that a direction we're going to be seeing boat manufacturers take in the next couple of years? I mean, what do you guys?
In my opinion, the half slice market is fantastic to look at right now, because on one side of the half slice market, you've got a boat like the Antics, which is super, super playful. Not something I would choose to paddle anything hard down. Then at the other end, you've got the Steves, which is ostensibly a stern pivotable creek boat, and kind of in the middle, you've got the Rewind and the Ripper. So it's a really cool. There's a half slice in there for everybody, which is really, really neat. So can you extend those two ends? Maybe a little bit, but I don't know how much. I'm not sure you could push the two ends of that half slice spectrum out much further. But there's definitely room for manufacturers within those two ends to come out to move their boats around within that half slice market. Like if we were going to do an updated Ripper, for example, would we do which direction would we go in, right?
Right.
Which if Dagger was going to update the Rewind, which direction would they go in? So so I think generally I think there's a half slice there for everybody. But I don't see any obvious direction that market could go in.
I'm ready for a 10-foot Ripper. I think that boat would be sweet.
I agree with you 100% about 10-foot boats, well, 10-ish boats, right? We all stopped around 9 because of sick line, and then sick line went away, and then some boats have creeped over 9 feet, and then we've got this big jump to 12-foot boats. And the 12R puts a massive smile on my face every time I paddle it. I'd love to see something between those two lengths, and no one's done that before. And I think that would be interesting ground to go into.
Man, I'll tell you, it's refreshing to see the Class 5 boats not be constrained by links.
Yeah.
You know, because it was such a weird thing trying to make a 9-foot boat fast and also handle whitewater really well. It just doesn't work. Like, those two things are not compatible. And just leaving that imaginary 9-foot barrier, it was 8'6" for a while or whatever, and just going straight with a boat that functions well in hard whitewater is refreshing to see, in my opinion.
Yeah, like if you go back and look at all the boats that have been made over the last just 5 or 6 years, right? It's 9 feet and below. 9.5 feet and below. But there's nothing above that until you hit these 12-foot long boats, which are still. So yeah, it's intriguing ground, isn't it? And let's not forget, back in the day, the free fall, the overflow, these were all 10-foot creekers that pioneered a lot of the whitewater a lot of the whitewater around the world. So it'd be really interesting to go back there and see what.
I
what
ran
we
the
could
shit
use.
in the free fall, man.
Me too. Me too.
Shit in the free fall.
Dude, so a quick story. So the first time I ever ran gorilla was in a Topolino after
I'm sure it was.
How long is
moving to
Topolino?
America, and it did not go well. It did not go well.
I remember those boats
getting.
being, like in my mind. I remember I thinking a Topolino was like 4.5 feet long.
It feels about that.
But how long are they?
Oh God, I don't even remember. It's ridiculously
Are
short.
they 10 feet?
I think it's
No.
6. It's like 6.
Yes. It's
Okay.
about.
I've
Topolino's
not
about
seen one
as
in
tall as
person
I
in
am. So.
decades.
Yeah, but I remember trashing that boat at Gorilla and buying a free fall the next week and thinking this boat was like the magic carpet ride. I'm like, oh my God. You couldn't get me out of that boat after that.
So speaking of Dagger, what's going to happen with Dagger, do you think? Like, what's your best prediction? And I've made a lot of wild speculations, and I know nothing about it. And Adrian, I'm sorry ahead of time. But I see Snowy leaving. I see them getting bought by Pelican. I'm like, I've been around long enough to know the economics of water.
Snowy hasn't left before we get in any more trouble.
I thought he stepped down.
Snowy is a contractor that's still contracting with Pelican.
Okay, well, good. I'm glad that's been clarified. So what's your thoughts? Like, I mean, do you think they're going to be a continuing concern, or do you think they're going to? I mean,
it would be wild speculation on my behalf to say anything. I think Confluence was already a big entity, and now it's under the Pelican umbrella. It's even larger. They, in this explosive market which we're in right now, I mean, they have to be steering all of their production towards high turn items, which are not whitewater boats. So, yeah. But at the same token, that they're investing in new team members.
right.
I saw their new boat debuted on social media today officially, so it's out. So
I mean, in terms of track records,
which boat is out?
the Dagger Code.
Okay, so
that'll hit my social media here within the last couple of hours. It looks like a Mamba hull with a Phantom deck.
In terms of boat designers, I mean, Snowy and Robert Pearson are the ones that have the best, longest track record in our industry. It'd be terrible, I mean, to have that. I mean, that's the wrong way of phrasing it. They're two of the best boat designers around right now. Wouldn't you say?
They're good, but I certainly wouldn't take anything away from Shane Benedict's huge impact in boat design.
All right.
I mean, when Pat Kellis had massive impact as well, and others. Just
Kenny Mutton.
So, yeah,
he's good so far. I mean, he doesn't have the decades of track record yet.
But I mean, what is decade? I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like you always go down this road, and like,
this is a Weldism. It's a Weldism.
Like, to me, it's like,
you gotta let him
I don't want to like cast aspersions on any of those guys, but I mean, like, they've all been around long enough to like come out with like some like massive duds, and like I wouldn't, like I would say I would say Kenny Mutton is hitting at like a way, way, way higher batting average than virtually any of those guys, really.
Right. I mean, well, to get to my point, I'm rooting for Snowy and I'm rooting for Dagger. I'm an old Team Dagger paddler, right? I want to see these guys succeed, and I don't want to come across otherwise, No,
John, I couldn't. The whitewater industry would be tremendously worse off without Dagger. I sincerely hope that everything works out under Pelican for those guys. It's an incredible brand that's had a tremendous legacy. That continues to do amazing things. Snowy's incredible, but it's not just Snowy. The team behind him over there is amazing as well. So the whitewater industry would be in a much worse off position if Dagger were to go away, and I really hope that doesn't happen. So, but I don't think that will happen.
Yeah, I don't either. There was definitely a lull when the whole sale happened, but just over the past 2 months, there seems to be a little energy creeping up over in that camp.
Agreed.
So,
Yeah.
And I mean, it seems like through the whole thing, I mean, they've come out with like quite a few new boats, and yeah, I mean, it doesn't seem like any signs of.
So, my co-hosts here are probably gonna laugh at me, and you may too. Laugh at me as well, Chris. But 10 years ago, no mountain bike designer ever thought they would be designing e-assist bikes, and they would be the number one selling thing within the lineup. Do you see
I
any kind
had
of
a nightmare about this last night?
Do you
Literally.
see any kind of e-assist working in whitewater? Not touring or anything like that, but in whitewater. Do you see this ever being a thing the same way e-assist is a... I mean, you look at mountain bikes, you look at the whole industry, it's all e-assist at this point. No one would have thought that 10 years ago. So you're a negative.
No.
All right.
Categorically no.
Okay. All right. Well, it looks like I'm gonna have to patent this thing and run with it myself.
Best of luck to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I don't know. What else you guys got for Mr. Hipgrave? What?
Chris, I want to talk about surf ski for a minute. You've gotten really into surf ski, eh?
Yeah, I have. Yeah.
Tell me.
It's amazing. I mean, I raced wild water for a long time, and that kind of set me up for success in surf ski. But yeah, surf skis are like 20. My surf ski's almost 22 feet long, but it's 17 inches wide at the waterline. It's ruddered. It weighs less than 20 pounds, and you steer with your feet. But it's meant for racing or covering big distances, mainly in the ocean. But out there where you guys are, I come out there every summer and paddle there on the Columbia there in the gorge, because it's one of the best downwind places on earth. It's absolutely incredible. But yeah, it's mind blowing. It's so much fun.
What kind of speed
I got out of.
Oh, sorry.
I was gonna say I got out a bit at the end of the summer, and it kind of struck a nerve with me, or struck a chord. So I got to go pick up a boat up in Bellingham here at some point in the next couple weeks.
Oh, cool.
You're buying a surf ski?
I am.
Sick.
Good.
Yeah.
It is so much fun. I mean, like you're not going tremendously fast on the Columbia because you're surfing upstream. It's wind against current there that sets everything up, but it still feels like you're going about 100 miles an hour on a boat that's 17 inches wide, and you're trying to surf everything that you can. And it's a 3-dimensional surf as well. Like you're looking for like little bumps in order to get the nose down, and it's 100% addictive. It's amazing.
It's cool. Yeah, it feels like sort of like a mix between like longboat surfing and attaining.
Yeah, agreed.
What kind of...
There's a good number of whitewater guys that have made that switch or added surf ski to their repertoire as well. So
that's because no whitewater here for 8 months out of the year. You have to do something. If you want to be in a boat, it has to be a flat water boat in the Columbia. And you put I take you over this, but you said paddling in the Columbia in one of these surf skis is as sketchy as paddling a little white. You want to play? Do you remember that?
Did I say that?
You told me that. You said, go ahead and take mine out. It's over Dave's. Bring a life jacket because it's as sketchy as paddling a little white.
Maybe your first time. No, I have a boat out there. If you ever want to borrow it and go for it, do it. But
I am going to take the boat out.
Good. Yeah. Please do.
Because it has piqued my interest as well.
Good. Yeah, it's amazing. And again, you only get whitewater for such a short time out there, so why the hell not?
I know. You see the plant behind Geltman there?
It still looks dead.
Yeah.
It's going to take it a while to come back to life. Things had a hard summer. Oh, man. Where were we going with this?
You going to the Big Gear show?
No. Are you?
Well, as I was saying earlier, we're not invited.
Oh, congratulations.
Not because I've been railing against it nonstop for the past 2.5 years, but because we don't make boats. I think it's a hard good on the show.
Yeah, no, we've decided not to go. It makes the timing just simply doesn't work for us. I know it's better for you earlier.
That's
but
not
for us. We need
June.
later. Yeah, see, for us, we need it later. We need it after Labor Day, ideally. And in most of the retailers going to that event seem to be the Grassroots Alliance retailers.
Yeah.
As well, so it just didn't make a lot of sense for us. So we're sitting this one out. We're going to do kind of the organic preseason rollout like we did this year. It worked so well in this pandemic that it kind of forced us to reinvent how we rolled everything out, and it worked. So I don't know why we wouldn't do it again without a show. Although I think, if someone can put something together, it would be amazing to get back together as an industry. I just don't think the Big Gear Show is it.
When are we going to see a new boat from Piranha? Like, when's going to be the next big release day?
January.
January, what would you reckon?
January 2021.
Yeah. Okay. What are we going to release, do you think? Like, what's any guess as to what that might be? Like,
no,
what direction we're headed?
Will it have batteries?
No. I can categorically tell you it does not have batteries. No, we've been testing a boat here for a while, and in the UK, and I think Fuseli's getting on the water here in one of the prototypes here soon as well. So we'll be rolling that out January to the public. Our dealers already know about it, obviously, but the public will start hearing about it in January. Pretty stoked. I've been in it. I'm jazzed beyond belief.
What genre of whitewater boat are we talking about?
What we're talking one that excels in whitewater, John.
Fascinating.
Yeah.
So
you heard it here first, folks.
It's shorter than 12 feet, but longer than 7 feet.
Okay, so it's not a Topolino type craft. It's something bigger
I
than
can
that.
assure you it's not a Topolino.
Interesting. Interesting.
Glad I could sneak that out here.
Have we improved? What are we doing in terms of cockpit shapes? Are we making headway there in terms of improving the cockpit shapes?
No, we're locked in with that cockpit shape for now.
Can we please? We need to.
I know.
Okay. All right, we'll set this aside for 2022, maybe.
You guys and your cockpits.
I'm the one who gets blamed for it. When a boat leaks, guess whose fault it is? This guy's. The spray skirts. I'm like, no,
Wait.
it's the $1,000 boat you bought. They're like, no.
No, it's
much
not.
better for me if it's a skirt.
It's definitely not our boat. It's definitely your skirt. Definitely your skirt.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, we're an hour and 36 minutes in here. What do you got, John? Close us down here with Mr. Hipgrave.
Oh, that's it. I think we're good.
Man, you didn't ask me. You didn't ask me about paddle length and offset. I'm kind of disappointed.
Yeah, what do we got?
Oh, totally
You're
missed
gonna
that.
knock it out of the park with this one.
Okay, 60 degree.
Yes.
Sick.
And I use a two-piece G-Power paddle that has adjustable length. So I'm at 200 in my creek boat and 204 in my 12R.
Sick. That's
All right.
proper.
Yeah.
You can come back. You can come back on the show.
Thank you.
Talk about your new boat after the new year. Oh man, is there anything you'd like to add, Chris, before we let you go here?
No, dude. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I appreciate it. I'm looking forward to putting 2020 in our rearview mirror for so many ways and for so many reasons. But I think 2021 is going to be pretty monumental for this industry. It's going to be really interesting. It'd be good to catch up with you guys 6 months down the road and see how it's going. But it's going to be earth shattering. I think.
I think the outdoor and the paddle sports community did so well this year. We have resources in an industry to do things we have not dreamt of doing since 1999. Right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, we're talking about things we have never thought possible, just in terms of, I mean, a lot of stuff behind the curtains that wouldn't be readily apparent, but supply chain stuff and materials and production. Yeah, it's going to be great. It's going to be a great year for kayaking.
Yeah, fingers
I
crossed.
think so too.
Well, thanks for the time, Mr. Hipgrave, and yeah, dude, we'll see you on the river.
All right, guys. Cheers.
Chris.
Thanks.
All right, see you, Chris.
A no-y assist. You think that's a dead in the water idea I got? Nobody seems into it.
God,
I think it's an uphill battle, man. I think most whitewater paddlers are doing this to get away from that.
I mean, I would have thought that Chris would have been the guy to give us some insight because his buddy Sean Baker had that like rocket powered kayak or jet ski powered kayak or whatever it was. That's another perennial YouTube.
I think that
classic.
did more harm to the idea of the helmet, you know, because that was just so obnoxious. What I'm talking about is just something you can just engage for like a 4-second pop. You know what I mean? Like just like you're just like. Wah! I'm sorry, it'd be sick. It would be sick. It would be so sick. All right, guys, we got some listener mail here. We may not cover all this because we are.
I mean, we can group these into a couple very simple categories. The number one being the hate mail for Grace and the vaccine talk.
Let's skip all the rest of these and just read this one from Alan Roberts because that one was good. Like that was like the most informative email Hammer Factor has ever gotten, I think.
There's a paddler in this area who Geltman knows quite well, who is in the medical profession, who has gotten my ear numerous times on your anti-vax thing.
I'm not anti-vax. I'm vaccine hesitant.
Yeah.
Can we clarify that?
That's basically the same thing.
Oh my God. All right. Well, when we get to this email, we'll talk about it. Let's do.
He's writing in.
Let's do Jorg Steinbach's email real quick. He says, "The EJ podcast was awesome. He brings another level of excitement to the sport and podcast. No offense, but the whiny negative comments from Lewis has been played out. Time to move on from him and add EG permanently. He's way more connected to what's happening in the kayaking community. Ask him to at least sub in when Lewis is out doing his thing in DC."
I will point out that Gelman's probably paddled 5 to 7 times more this year than Evan did.
No, that's not true.
Evan spends most of his time in flying those kites around the Dalles or something.
Well, I mean, I'm loyal to a fault. Lewis, you're not getting out of here, even if you want. So. Man, we've got some great listener mail. We're going to have to push some of these back because we are way late and it's 6 p.m. here on the East Coast and I have to go attend to some children. Which one did you want to read here on the vaccine hate?
I want to read, we don't have to read this whole email, it's too long, but just read through the one from Alan Roberts. Alan Roberts says Grace is wrong. I got it up. You want me to read it?
Okay, no, I got it right here. Now, this is actually a really good one.
This needs to go on the show notes because I thought this was extremely informative.
Yeah. So this is in reference to the last show. To clarify, I was hesitant to get the vaccine. I have misgivings about it. Evan's like, dude, I think his comment was like, I'd rather French kiss a girl with COVID than get that shot. I'm definitely not in that camp, but like I have some misgivings. So he says, "Hey, Hammer Factor, I'm an infectious disease epidemiologist and longtime paddler. I heard some misconceptions about the COVID mRNA vaccine during your last episode. I want to help clear some things up. This isn't hate mail, and I'm not calling anyone stupid or ignorant. Skepticism is healthy when it comes to any medical interventions that haven't been rigorously tested. And our current administration's attack on health experts at the FDA, CDC, and NIH have only increased public mistrust. It's completely understandable to be concerned." So I would like to give Mr. Alan Roberts here a big kudos because when someone says something, he didn't immediately start saying they lack morality or sending them Alex Jones things and calling them a freaking flat earther and whatever. He says, "Okay, I understand where you're coming from." Okay, so that's all I'm going to say about this. It's a very well put out email. There are a lot of good points in there. He's backed up by links, and he is right with everything that he's saying here. I just want to go on that first and thank him for at least having some bit of non-assholeness in his email. So
let's just be perfectly clear about the source of the Alex Jones type memes that were going on in the Hammer Factor group text over the last week or two.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, I mean, what do you want me to say? It makes me nervous.
Okay. So keep reading.
You want it to not be that way, but it is. However, the evidence thus far for both efficacy and safety is looking really good for the Pfizer and Moderna vaccines, which are the two mRNA vaccines that have results from rigorous testing. Here are a few common questions and misconceptions, many of which I heard on the podcast. I hope some of this information will be useful if you decide to keep talking about COVID vaccine on the podcast or just in conversations with friends and family. Also, the CDC has a nice summary about mRNA vaccines here. Thanks for making the Hammer Factor happen. It's great company when I'm driving to the river solo in these quarantine days. Alan Roberts, Seattle, Washington. This is very, very long, and it's very detailed and very clear, and he answers some really good questions that, he clarifies some points that we talked about that were great, and I fully am on board with everything he's got to say.
I thought it was just an incredibly edifying email that he had obviously put a lot of time and thought into, and I really appreciated reading it.
Yeah, I agree, 100%. And also, Alan Roberts, he is, he started this off with understanding people like me.
That's right.
So that's
it was a very kind and educational email.
Exactly.
I used to teach with a British guy named Alan Roberts. I think he ended up on the Nile or something like that. I wonder if he's still around. Alan Roberts, if you're out there, send me an email.
He's stalking you from a Hammer Factor afar. No, I will definitely include this on the email. And I'm not going to bring up the vaccine anymore because it just...
Thank you.
There's just
okay, moving on.
a
What
whole
else we got?
level of hate. Ryan Stevenson is dumbfounded by anti-vax Grace. Joe Keck calls me out. Kevin likes the Hammer Factor until we talk about the vaccine. Lots of great emails. Thanks for sending those in. I got thick skin. I'm fully on board to take it. We've got some guest ideas here.
Oh, okay. We can talk about this off the show. Sorry.
Wait, you can't do that.
Well, a long time ago, Joe Pulliam, the ex-owner of Dagger, wrote me he'd been listening, and I think he wanted to clarify, discuss some things we've been talking about. I don't want to bore the audience too much about industry stuff, so we can fit that in at some point. But that's been on my list to discuss with you guys at some point. That's why
he was a great guest before.
Anyway.
Yeah.
I just don't want everybody out there to think I'm a flat earther, anti-vaxxer, all that kind of stuff. It's amazing. This little company, Moderna, they came up with this technology. Think about starting a business like that and just having this technology that no one's ever given the light of day, and all of a sudden, boom, you get your opportunity.
In terms of guest ideas, we should definitely,
even though you've never made
put Diversity Whitewater on that list as well, and get those the two founders of that to come back, Antoinette, and I guess Lily was the other one.
Yeah. No. I think that'd be really good.
See what I did that?
All right, guys. Now to everyone's favorite part of the show. This is where your host going a little bit of a rant, a little bit of a rave about something they're extremely stoked about or is gnawing at their backside. This is our rants and raves. This is going to shut us down for 2020, boys. I hope that you have something good in store. Who would like to lead us off?
I want to rave about an under-recognized boat designer, particularly by me, and it's Shane Benedict.
Hi, I'm here to rant.
Hey. Oh, there we go.
Okay.
Hey, hold on for a second.
Okay. Yeah. Finish your rant.
Yeah.
Lewis.
My rave.
What was that?
I just want to shout out to Shane, who has been in this game as long as anybody, and has as much as anything personally changed the sport. His career, from Perception to starting Liquid Logic to all the boats he's designed. I feel like when I was sort of on that tangent talking about Snowy and Pearson, how could you not mention Shane in the same breath? So I just want to address that. A special shout out to him because I know he listens. And yeah, I remember the first day Woody and what's that guy's name who helped start Liquid Logic, who did the camper trailers, Tom, you know what I'm talking about.
Not Steve Jordan.
No, the guy who left to start the camper trailer company.
Oh, Dempsey.
Dempsey dropped off my Session Plus, which I still have. Best cartwheeling boat ever made.
Okay.
Okay, Darby.
Sorry. So, Darby, can you just real quick introduce yourself? You're over at Lewis's house. You've been here and talking about the show. How do we go here?
Yeah,
Because our listeners are like, who is this girl who just
very
popped in
vague.
the show?
Oh, hi. Well, I guess I'm just Lewis's girlfriend. But... I mean, to you guys.
Well,
You just like get his paddling gear dry and help him get lunch ready for the river, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Have a nice day, sweetheart. Have fun in the Little White.
I guess I'm just another whitewater kayaker.
you're a kayaker there in Hood River. Let's just kind of real
White
quick.
salmon.
How long? I mean, in white salmon. How long have you been paddling? And just give us a quick little background of just you in the sport. You like it?
I've been paddling like 8 or 9 years. I'm from Missoula. And yeah, started playboating there when I was younger. And yeah, I went to World Class Academy, started creeking there, moved out to white salmon. Yeah.
Did you move out to white salmon to paddle?
I did, and I was also working for Rush Sturge's media production company when I came out. So I had a setup. I had a job out here, actually.
It's a rarity.
And yeah, and just wanted to come out and paddle the Little White a bunch. So
Okay, so we're at our rants and raves segment of the show. Now, Lewis, is she substituting for you, or you both have a rant or a rave? How's this working?
I'm indifferent. I'm happy to hand off my rant to Darby.
I think we should just add. I mean, it's 2020. Let's just stack it up.
All right.
you wanna go?
Okay, Darby,
Lay it
are
on
you
us.
ranting or raving?
I have a rant. So let's see. I've been living in white salmon for 3 years now, and there's one thing that I've noticed, and it's there's always some bro trying to start a new bro trend. And this can be like a word or a hand symbol that like doesn't really make any sense, that like
That's John Weld.
comes up with, and then like all the bros start doing it. And like I don't have any problem with that whatsoever, like, but there is this one thing that's been happening lately that's really been bothering me. I want to rant about.
Don't say Shrek.
It's not Trig. It's not Trig. Like, no, like my rant is not about bro trends.
This is like the best rant we've had in a long time.
No, so I was driving home from Hood River the other day when I noticed that my truck antenna was like waving back and forth in the wind really wildly. And it was because there was this yellow foam ball stuck to the top of it. And anyone that lives in the gorge knows what I'm talking about. This is not the first time I've gotten one of these put on my truck. Anyone that's left their vehicle at like BZ for the afternoon has gotten one of these things. So I'm assuming it's like some bro that's trying to start a new bro trend, putting these little yellow balls on everyone's truck antennas. And I know it's a kayaker because on the ball is a little kayak and a little cat inside the kayak. And so I guess my message to this person is just that, like, your balls do not amuse me. Please stop putting them on my truck.
Next
I
time.
wonder if that's there's some new brand somebody's going to start, or T-shirts or something. This is the way they're trying to launch it.
Yeah, so I saw yesterday that someone had started a new T-shirt brand that was like "Yeah, bro," and it had like this symbol, this like "Yeah, bro" symbol on it, and so that sort of was what got me thinking about this yellow ball thing. Like someone starting a yellow ball trend, like all these trends.
It's so annoying. Crap, it's gonna show up in the river. It's like
that's exactly what it is.
it's like, why do you need more styrofoam balls in the world? Like, make an annoying sticker like everybody else.
Well, that reminds me of the thing, and it's these plastic snakes that people have put up on Dock Raid Road that cover these like beautiful Christmas ornaments that are usually up. It's like just trash. That like why does put trash everywhere?
Getting pretty inside baseball.
Yeah.
Little orange balls on antennas.
Decorations.
Yeah, but I feel like I hate to like just rant. I also want to rave. Can I also rave?
Jump in there.
Yeah.
Well, at least we got rain, so
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. that's positive. Rain's a Christmas.
Have you paddled a Little White since it came up?
I haven't yet. I went to the Wind yesterday.
What was the level?
like 9 feet, I think.
That's some reasonable whitewater there.
Yeah, it was.
All right. All right, let's stay on topic. What do you got there, Lewis? Rant or rave?
Rant. I feel like or rave. I feel like I already kind of covered it on the intro, though. My rave is the atmospheric river. Do you guys, people outside the Northwest, know about the atmospheric river? I feel like I've probably talked about this on here a million times already. But it's like, I feel like this is, like, you look at the weather forecast and you're like, hurricane coming. You're like, yes. And like in the Pacific Northwest, the atmospheric river is our hurricane.
This
It's
makes
like
no sense to me, by the way. But go ahead.
I know it makes no sense.
It didn't rain at all. It rained nonstop for like a week, and then Little White did not budge 1 millimeter. It hasn't rained at all in a week, and all of a sudden Little White's running 4 feet.
Pouring rain over there. It was pouring rain for the last like 3 days.
It doesn't add up. It doesn't make any sense, Grace. Just take my word for it.
And
it'll be like, the farmlands is too high, the truss is too low, the bottom's way too high, the lower is just about right.
I told Mitty like a week and a half ago that the Little White was going to come in this Sunday. And he's like, okay, Sunday. Just got to study up, Weld. I'll give you Pacific Northwest, Cliff Mass weather textbook, and you can do some studying.
That's all right. I'll just call Max. He tells what to do.
All right, I'm going to rant about all these people posting these pictures online of them getting the vaccine. No, that's totally a joke. That's totally a joke. I was just totally going to joke. No.
You're getting the vaccine on live television in your capacity as a political figure. How high would your temptation be to just immediately go into some like fake spasm or something?
Oh my God. There's no doubt. I just start convulsing for sure. No, I have a rave, and I'm going to rave. It's so timely. It's starting this show about all of the people who have pitched in over the years and bought a green key to the Green River Narrows, because there's no way without all of those people and the passionate community that we could secure permanent access to this river, and it happened. So they are the people who made it happen. All the people who put their $60 in year over year, all the locals, the entire community that made it happen. So I'm going to rave about those folks. And that's how I'm going to shut us down here on 2020. Anything else you guys would like to add? I mean, this is pretty much it for 2020. I mean, we go into Christmas, the holidays. I mean,
nope.
That's it, man.
I feel like we're wasting an opportunity to have Darby on the show here.
For sure.
But
we need to block some time.
I'm not ready to go there. This could be a Patreon show. Because the pre-show, we can't do the pre-show.
No, we cannot do the pre-show.
But we could do some kind of behind the scenes with Lewis and Darby.
Well, I can't right now, but maybe later.
Well, thanks for coming on and sharing your experience there. You're going to have to let us know how it all shakes up.
Probably going to wake up in the morning to like 12 more balls on my truck.
Yeah, you're sunk now.
Oh man, I really made it worse, didn't I?
You've unleashed the Kraken with the ball guy, I think.
Yeah, but at least I'll know who he is now, or she, but probably a bro.
Well, 2020's been crazy. Grateful to make it this far. Grateful for my co-host here on the show, Darby, coming on and ranting. All the great things going on. Thanks so much to all the listener mail. Everybody who pays attention to the Hammer Factor. At some point, we'll try to get on a better schedule with this thing, but we got another one done.
Y'all.
All right, cheers, guys.
Cheers.